My audience analysis for my speech to oral component is a group of my peers. When preparing my speech, I have taken into consideration our individual backgrounds, experiences, and worldviews. The purpose of my speech is to educate on the harmful tropes in Western media surrounding Asian culture and Asian women. The film Crazy Rich Asians gives us a view of modern Singapore and Asian culture. The film has been criticized for portraying the culture through a Western lens tainted through Orientalism. How does this film portray women in this society, and how does that compare to reality? As I begin our discussion, I will address the valid criticism of the film. Many have pointed out the film's habit of falling into Western Orientalist views of Asian culture. During my research, I ran across an article written by Jay Stoughton in 2020. The article is entitled Orientalism, Definition, History, Explanation, Examples, and Criticism. In the article, they mention Edward Said's definition of Orientalism as a way of viewing Asian cultures as exotic, primitive, and inferior to Western culture. The film's main protagonist, Rachel, is a young, college-educated, American-born Chinese woman. Her mother was an immigrant who's put herself through college and had gained a professional license. They are the picture-perfect poster child of the American dream. In contrast, the film introduces us to the family of Rachel's boyfriend, Nick Young. The Young family is an extravagantly wealthy family in Singapore, and they look down on Rachel and her self-centric American values. As Devi Vijay illustrates in their analysis of the film, Crazy Rich Asians, exploring discourses of Orientalism, neoliberal feminism, privilege, and inequality, the film's pitting of the protagonist, American sweetheart Rachel, her values and worldview against her boyfriend's Singaporean mother Elizabeth, is rooted in the philosophy of Orientalism. Elizabeth ultimately is the one who must change her ways to fit Rachel and become a positive character in the story. This is unjustified and sadly a common theme in Western media surrounding other cultures. I hope my discussion is understood the way I intend, to objectively view Eastern traditions and cultural roles of women based in research and how they've been portrayed in the film in comparison to Western norms versus the reality of Asian culture. In the film, we see the female members of the Young family as quiet, reserved, strong when needed, but also fitting traditional feminine roles. The role these women take up in the family business is one of support of their male counterparts and being able to take over in the male's absence. Quiet support with education and capacity to assist when needed. They are seen performing traditional housewife roles, overseeing children and their homes. We also get a scene of all the women gathered to make dumplings together, a scene obviously trying to communicate something about the traditional role of Asian women as they are making a traditional Asian dish. American-born Rachel and her mother are portrayed quite differently, as independent, bright, and even happier than we see the reserved, graceful Asian women of the Young family. Rachel's mother is the idea of a self-made person having immigrated to the U.S. Rachel herself is a college-educated professional. These are portrayed as the Western values in the film: education, career, and independence, and the joy that those bring. While these images of women from separate cultures are pitted adjacent to each other for contrast, it is fair to point out that Rachel and her mother are being portrayed with modern Western values that are fairly new, even in America. The women of the Young family are being shown to have a more traditional lifestyle, and yes, there is an argument for them being educated and capable to run the business, but the expectation is for them to be predominantly in home with the family, making sacrifices and tending to family matters. It feels an unfair comparison between Rachel and the women of the Young family, thus lending credit to Orientalism in their storytelling. And according to Tommy Coe's article, Women's Quest for Justice and Equality, A Short History, since the 1960s, women in Singapore have enjoyed many of the same equal and human rights as their male counterparts. Since then, women have gained access to education, the workforce, and are even serving in positions of government. Another criticism of the film has been its narrow point of view that encourages the idea that Eastern ideals are somehow inferior to those of Western culture. The film, by focusing on only the highest tier of the upper class, represents the current culture and uses this technique to exaggerate roles of women in Asia. As a topic of the Fourth Women in Asia Conference report in 1994, Written by L. Edwards, this type of feminism, marred by Orientalism, is damaging to the culture and an inaccurate portrayal of a modern society as somehow backwards or primitive in comparison to Western society. In conclusion, the film Crazy Rich Asians is a very popular movie, and on the surface, it's an adorable romantic story about a boy and girl from different social classes. It plays on many traditional American media tropes. At first glance, this is cute and a fun story, but upon more reflection, we begin to identify the harmful themes found under the surface. Misrepresentation, Western superiority, and Oriental exoticism is prevalent and damages the truth of Asians and their diverse, thriving cultures. Thank you so much.